Hey everyone, welcome to the Cyberman Show. So today I got hold of a new report that I read recently from Palo Alto. It's called the Incident Response Report, and it is created by their Unit 42 consulting and threat intelligence team. And it's a 66 page report, so I've made some summary of or lessons from what I've learned from that entire report. It talks about how the cyber attacks are going, uh, how are threat actors doing initial access, how they succeed, who's getting targeted, specific details on a threat actor, how AI is impacting, how the speed of attacks is increasing, the impact on businesses, details on cloud incidents, and then recommendations. So let's get started. So this report came out last week, and in uh, in this report, essentially what Palo Alto has done is they have given a summary of their research on various cyber incidents that they have handled. So this represents only the data set that is handled by Palo Alto. Um, I've done previous episodes on similar reports from other companies. So, what happens is whenever an incident response team does analysis or publishes some reports, it essentially represents their findings. It's not a industry wide thing. It doesn't contain summary of all the incidents that are happening. Okay, now uh, going back to the report, the report mentions that the most damaging threat actor in 2023 is a group called Muddled Libra. They have a motive of financial gain, and essentially, this report has details on this threat actor. And if you want to look at the details, it is also known as scattered spider, also known as UNC 3944, and scatter swine. So various companies who are into the IR business, they come up with their own names for these threat actors. Uh, and then typically a central repository is maintained to understand or track their tools and tactics. So we'll come to this threat actor later, but let's get into how threat actors get initial access. So in 2023, as per them, as per Unit 42, most initial access started with the software vulnerabilities and by exploitation of internet-facing system. Okay, essentially what that means is the softwares were not patched, uh, and they were connected to internet. Also, the report lists that other reason threat actors are able to get success or infiltrate into environment is there is partial or incomplete deployment of security controls, as well as more attackers are stealing and using the identity of authorized personnel to access and move around the networks. Now, who are they going after? Okay, so the top six industries that constitute 63% of the incidents are professional legal services, high tech, manufacturing, healthcare, finance, wholesale, and retail. Okay, then uh, specific to the increasing speed of attacks, the research team noticed that the speed at which attackers can scan the entire IPv4 address space looking for vulnerable targets is dramatically reduced. They can scan the entire internet within few hours. Okay, and especially the high profile vulnerability. Now, just 2 years ago, the median time between compromise and exfiltration was 9 days. However, in 2023, it was just 2 days, uh, a full week less. Okay, uh, in almost 45% of cases this year, attackers exfiltrate data in less than a day after compromise. Now, this was very intriguing to me. Uh, Now, what that also means is almost half the time organization must respond within hours to stop these attacks. And while organizations could be planning to handle an incident, trying to get their incident response and legal teams together, the cyber criminals might have already performed the objectives. It could mean maybe deployment of ransomware or exfiltrating the data. The report has a case study on Blackbuster ransomware. So it mentions how many minutes it can take for an attacker. In this particular case study that they handle it, within 14 hours, attackers gained access to an organization, exfiltrated terabytes of data, and deployed ransomware on nearly 10,000 endpoints. Now, if you're looking at breakup, this is how it worked. Phishing email starts the clock. Initial entry starts 30 minutes after phishing email. Recon starts 15 minutes after the initial entry. Privilege escalation in C2 45 minutes after recon. Exfiltration starts 390 minutes plus after privilege escalation. Account modification starts 80 minutes after exfil. And by this time, 9 hours and 20 minutes have elapsed already. Ransomware prep starts 130 minutes after account modification. Ransomware deployment starts 125 minutes after the prep. Okay, so by this time, 13 hours and 35 minutes have passed. So this is a dramatic increase in the way attacks can achieve their objective. Okay, now in this case, Black Basta ransomware group was of course after the financial gain. Okay, so the speed of attacks has definitely increased. Okay, in terms of impact, the report mentions that while reputation and share prices usually recover to their pre-incident levels, there are always soft and hard economic costs, as you can imagine. And the report addresses 3 points. Was there data exposure? So at least in 49% of cases, the target knew or had to assume the information had been compromised. And this is one of the critical questions that organization often want to know, is whether any non-public or sensitive information was disclosed, exposed, or compromised. Now, was data targeted, which means were attackers are looking after something specific, and they typically do it by once they have access, they will perform keyword searches, apply criteria, or filter whatever data they are looking for. They can filter by extension size, date range, pattern matching, etc. Now, what has happened in this, or what has been shared in this report, is that there is a high amount of growth in attackers trying to collect everything and then sorting it out later once it's in their environment, which means they get in, they take that data out as much as they can, and then they work on it later. It's essentially a grab and go strategy, and they are doing it faster. So instead of waiting, they will, the speed is much higher. Now, the last critical thing in terms of impact is, was the business interrupted? So almost 35% of the casework involved business disruption of some kind. It was due to effect of ransomware or data destruction malware. Also, increasingly, this disruption is publicly visible. There's a clear trend of greater public awareness of large-scale cybersecurity incidents. Certain threat actors take advantage of this publicity to pressure their victims. Okay. Now, in terms of cloud incidents, that are also covered in a separate section in this report. This report mentions specific vulnerabilities on cloud-based systems, including some SaaS applications like specific vulnerability on Sugar CRM that allowed access to cloud account. It showed two things: threat actors know how to use cloud accounts in a distributed network environment, and they are willing to take roundabout ways to get access. The report also mentioned that there is definitely an increase in incident response involving cloud cases from 6% in 2021 to 16.6% in 2023. Okay. Now, this also matches overall trend that we have noticed, which is organization moving from an on-prem infrastructure to a cloud-based, or at least a hybrid infrastructure. Also, in one of the reports that was done by them previously, it mentioned that 3/4 or 76% of the organizations didn't enforce any multi-factor authentication for cloud users, and 58% of the organizations don't enforce MFA for root or admin users. Okay, so which was a surprising thing, but in my experience, that's common. And in case organizations are using multi-cloud environments or multiple CSPs, the policies or security controls often vary. Okay. Now, with that, let's talk about the artificial intelligence. So the report mentions that AI is bringing new possibilities for attackers, and of course, defenders will get benefit too. The team saw evidence that adversaries have already started to experiment and also to use AI. Okay, so how they can potentially use is AI chatbots. So using AI chatbot, attackers can craft more realistic phishing emails with fewer obvious errors. Deepfakes also are becoming easier to create with AI, opening the door to misinformation and propaganda campaigns. The other things attacker can do is use AI for scale and speed. Using AI, it makes it less expensive and faster to execute numerous simultaneous attacks aimed at exploiting multiple vulnerabilities. And it can also speed up post-exploitation activities such as lateral movement and recon. Uh, Also, AI is more useful to attackers as a co-author than as a sole creator of new malware. Okay, AI can be patient too. So, and a human can get frustrated if somebody tells this person that, hey, you have to take an year or 2 years so that, or 2 year to infiltrate an environment so that it doesn't show up as an activity in the monitoring systems. So what AI can do is at least theoretically engage in a long slow burn operation aimed at eventually finding a way into the organization, perhaps over a time period that a human would unlikely sustain. Okay, now on that note, uh, I came through a paper that was published earlier in February called LLM Agents Can Autonomously Hack Websites. I highly recommend reading it. Some amazing work done by the research team. So it opened my eyes on the possibilities of attacks using AI. Okay. Now, lastly, going back to the threat actor, which is the group that I mentioned earlier, the Muddled Libra group that had multiple names. Now, this specific group is very aggressive and they're skilled at attack operations, and they are damaging in nature. Okay, they gained not popularity by hacking Caesars Entertainment and MGN Resorts International last year. These are the two largest casino and gambling companies in the US, and it is believed that these group is made up of operatives based in US and the UK. So they have strong English language schools which they use for written and spoken communication, and also this group has been known to understand various cloud environments and also software as a SaaS tools. Okay, and once they're in the environment, they actively monitor defenders' internal communication to understand when and how they have been detected to improve their ability and speed of data theft. Okay, their ransom demands are very large, often in tens of millions of dollars, and of course, they demand everything in cryptocurrency. Specific to their skills, so they been observed to access targets own technical documentation, reading incident response SOPs and playbooks, how to documentation, and otherwise furthering their understanding of the environment. uh, they even attempt to access and use existing security platforms, any management platforms like EDR, XDR platforms, patch management systems, and with that objective of recon, data theft, and malware deployment. And this uh, group is known to understand AWS, Google Cloud Platform, and Microsoft Azure, and they look for misconfigured environments, creating service accounts and additional access keys even in the early stages of attack. Now, early attacks were focused on telecom provider and BPO organizations, and then in terms of what tactics they used for initial access, so social engineering with both IT help desk and end users, buying access from brokers, stealing credentials from user endpoints, reusing compromised infrastructure, or re-exploiting unfixed vulnerabilities used by a previous attacker. Okay. Now, the highest impact access method is scamming the target's IT help desk. They can call up the target company's IT help desk and impersonate a valid user. They will ask for help with resetting the user's passwords and or changing the mobile phone number associated with the account. Often the request comes with a sob story or other emotion intended to manipulate the help desk work. This attack takes a few minutes. Now, this means they are unusually comfortable with engaging over the telephone with both help desk and other employee. Okay. Although they don't like to use malware, this group has used Recon Tailor to access credentials stored in applications. They appear to focus on stealing session tokens and saved credentials. They've also been seen misusing legitimate forensics tools to research for credentials in the live memory. Okay, and once they are in the environment, they create multiple backdoors in the environment. They install rootkits. They use remote management tools, outbound tools, RDP, etc. And they can create new accounts for themselves, and the names of these accounts often mimic existing privileged accounts. In terms, and once they have the back doors available, they typically move to exfiltration, and to exfiltrate data they use commercial hosting services, and they also use external VPN to create outbound tunnels for exfiltration, obscuring their traffic from inspection devices, right? So very interesting uh, tactics used by this group. So I'm personally tracking this group out of curiosity, and that's not everything is not bad, right? So of course the report has some good news, which we specifically dwell time. Dwell time is the number of days an attacker is present in an victim environment before it gets detected. So essentially it's the time between the first detection of the attacker and the earliest evidence of the attacker's presence. So this is increasing, which means defenders as well as the platform they are using are doing a good job. Now the report also mentions recommendations for defenders. So it's all about visibility into your internal and external attack surface, use of zero trust principles, things like strong MFA, segmentation, lateral movement prevention, layer 7 threat prevention, simple granular least access policies, and of course continuous monitoring. With that, thank you so much. I hope you found the report and my lessons from it useful. Uh, Keep dropping comments, keep sharing this podcast. I'm very thankful to people who are listening. I'll see you next time.